Original Medicare alone may not provide enough coverage if you become seriously ill or need regular medical care. For example, the coinsurance for chemotherapy with Part B is 20%. However, with chemotherapy drugs being so very expensive and there being no out-of-pocket maximum with Original Medicare, you could still wind up with some pretty big bills. To avoid situations like these, this is why many people look into a Medicare supplement plan, aka a Medigap plan. However, those premiums can be expensive as well, and that's why today we're going to talk about the high deductible version of Plan G. So first and foremost, what is Medigap? Well, Medigap, like I said, Medicare supplement plans are a financial solution to the gaps of Original Medicare. Now, Original Medicare really does provide truly comprehensive coverage, but there are still deductibles and copays and coinsurance. And as I already mentioned, there is no out-of-pocket maximum. So Medigap plans will help to cover or possibly entirely cover these out-of-pocket costs. And you'll still have all of the flexibility afforded to you by Original Medicare. So you don't need a PCP, which is a primary care physician. You don't need a referral to see specialists. And there really aren't any networks. You can see any doctor or visit any hospital that accepts Medicare, and almost all do. There are 10 different plans with varying levels of coverage and, of course, varying price points. So here are the 10 Medigap plans available. Plan A, B, C, D, F, G, K, L, M, and N. And this chart just details what benefits are offered by which plan. Now remember, Medigap plans aren't going to offer additional benefits that aren't already offered by Original Medicare. For example, Original Medicare doesn't offer dental benefits, so you're not going to see that any of these plans offer dental benefits. Instead, what they're going to do is help to cover or possibly entirely cover copays, coinsurance, and deductibles. So basically, you pay a little bit extra, but almost all of your out-of-pocket expenses, or possibly all of your out-of-pocket expenses, will be taken care of. So you can see that all of the plans will cover your Part A coinsurance, which is extremely helpful. All the plans will cover in some capacity Part B coinsurance or copays. Plans K and L are known as cost-sharing plans. So basically, they're going to contribute to these out-of-pocket costs, but Plan K will cover 50% of your cost, and Plan L will cover 75%, and that's just pretty much, generally speaking, across the board. All the plans will cover the first 3 pints of blood in case of need of transfusion. Part A, hospice care, coinsurance or copays, that's very important. Skilled nursing facility care coinsurance, again, very, very important. The only plans that don't offer that is Plan A and Plan B. Your Part A deductible, that's that deductible that's applied per benefit period. So if you do need to be hospitalized more than once in a given year, then you might have to meet that deductible again, and that can certainly be very expensive. The Part B deductible, no plans that are offered to new enrollees are going to cover that Part B deductible, but that's a once annual deductible and it's not very expensive, so it's not your biggest concern. Part B excess charges. So basically, if your doctor accepts Original Medicare, then they accept the amount that Medicare is willing to pay out. However, they can choose to charge an excess charge, which is up to 15% more. Now, I wouldn't necessarily worry about these because they're not all that common and they're not even permissible in all states. The only plans that do cover Part B excess charges are plans F and G. Plan F is one of those plans that's not offered to new enrollees, but if you are looking for the most comprehensive coverage available to everyone, then that would be Plan G. Foreign travel, almost all plans will cover that in some capacity, 80%. And then there's this out-of-pocket limit. You'll see it's asterisked here because it's not really applicable. For example, Plan F and Plan G, and even to an extent Plan N, are really going to cover all of your out-of-pocket expenses except for possibly that Part B deductible. Plans K and Plan L, because they are the cost-sharing plans, they do have an out-of-pocket maximum, which is very helpful because if you do have major medical bills, Original Medicare doesn't have any type of limit or threshold on what your spending could be. So bearing all of this in mind, why would you choose the high deductible version of Plan G? Well, basically it breaks down to those premium costs. So let's take a look. So right now I'm on Medicare.gov. We're looking at Medicare supplement plans in North Carolina. Please bear in mind that prices vary tremendously based upon your area and also based upon this information that you would need to put in. And of course, if you're subject to medical underwriting or not. So right now I haven't put in any of the information. So you see that the ranges are going to vary widely. I'm going to leave that blank for right now. So that way we can see the full range basically. So if we scroll down to Medigap Plan G, you can see that it could range from $85, very inexpensive, all the way up to $1,507, which I have to imagine is probably completely cost prohibitive. I can't imagine that if that was your rate that you would choose Medigap Plan G. And the high deductible version ranges from $10 to $275 per month. So, that being said, remember that these plans are basically the same, except you have this $2,800 deductible in addition to that. So if we were going to run those numbers, let's look at the high end and the low end. So if you were able to get a plan, a Medigap Plan G for $85, so we've got 85 times 12 equals plus that $240 deductible for the year. So that would bring you to $1,260. And that's really your costs for the full year, because remember, that's covering all of your additional out-of-pocket costs, all of your Part B coinsurance, your Part A copays, anything. That's the amount that you would pay, and that's really it. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if you were up to that $1,507, and let's be real, you're definitely not going to want to plan if it costs you $1,500 a month. But to make things even, on the other end of the spectrum, if we had $1,507 times 12 equals, plus that $240 deductible. So now you're up to $18,324 for your costs for the year. So that's the range for regular old Plan G. Then the Medigap high deductible version. So you're going to pay your monthly premium plus this deductible plus this deductible. So let's take a look. So $10 times 12 plus 240 plus 2,800. So that brings you to $3,160 versus the regular old Plan G on the lower end of the spectrum, $1,260. So of course, if you are able to get a regular Plan G for $85, then that would be a great way to go. However, it's unlikely, and I'm going to show you that in just a moment. Now, on the higher end of the spectrum, if we're going to compare those high ends, I think it's pretty obvious which one is going to win out right now, but let's do it just for the purposes of this video. So you have 275 times 12 equals plus 240 plus 2,800. So that brings you to $6,340. And there's just no comparison to that very high number that we had when we were looking at the high end of Plan G. So that's looking at the full range and without putting in any information. Now, if we put in some information, things are going to change drastically. I'll show you. So let's put in that you're actually, let's say you're 67, male, and you don't use tobacco. Okay, let's update these prices. Scroll back down to Plan G. All right, we're looking at a much more reasonable range now, between $94 to $394 and $35 to $61. Let's do those numbers again. So we have a $94 monthly premium times 12 equals plus $240. Okay, $1,368. Versus a $35 premium, 35 times 12 equals plus $240 plus $2,800, $3,460. So on the low end of the spectrum, if you get great prices, then Plan G could save you money. Now on the high end of the spectrum, $394 versus $61. So let's start with $394. $394 times 12 equals plus 240, 4,968, and then 61 times 12 equals plus 240 plus 2,800 equals 3,772. So you'll save about $1,000 here. Now, that being said, of course, if you can get a really great price of a regular Plan G, then Plan G could definitely save you money. And you'll be able to make use of your more regular services without having to, pay a tremendous amount out of pocket. For Plan G, now we're looking at basically the maximum that you could have to spend, which is taking into account your monthly premium and all those plan deductibles. There are services that are covered even without meeting your deductible, some of those more basic services. So if you're somebody that just takes advantage of the basic services and you don't need to see a doctor regularly, then this could save you money. Even if you're looking at, plans on the lower end of the spectrum premium wise. And if you're somebody who just doesn't need to go see the doctor, this could save you money. However, and I do want to emphasize this, it has been proven and studied that people with no insurance or people with, insurance with less coverage are less inclined to go to the doctor. Why? Because if you know that it's going to cost you a fortune, if you're going to have to pay this very high deductible because your knee is hurting and you need to go see a specialist, or your chest has been acting up, something feels a little funny, you're more likely to ignore it perhaps. And unfortunately, the truth is those little things may not actually be little things. They may be something serious, and you don't want something like a very high deductible to be making you nervous to go to the doctor. So, do proceed with caution. This is a great way to save money. It absolutely is, but you don't want it to stand in the way of you actually going to see the doctor. So our recommendation would be, if you can afford Plan G and if you get a good price for your premium, then that is a great way to go. If you're looking to really save money, because these are going to be the lowest premiums you're going to see for still good coverage. If you are looking to save money, or you need to save money, then a Plan G high deductible you can certainly look into. Just please don't let that high deductible interfere with you actually going to get the medical care that you may so desperately need. Little things can be little things. They can be treated early, but if you allow them to wait, they can snowball until it's something that can no longer be treated. And that's absolutely not something that you want to happen. You can also look down here at Plan N. This is another very comparable plan to Plan G. We actually did a video about Plan N recently. The only real difference between Plan N and Plan G is that Plan N may have a couple of copays, minor copays here and there, and those Part B excess charges, which of course are not very common and they're not even allowed in all states. So if you can also get a Plan N with great rates, that's another good plan to take into consideration as well. A brief pause here to remind you to please like and subscribe. Now, if you have any questions whatsoever, we are licensed health insurance brokers and we're licensed nationwide. You can reach us in the comments below with any questions or at the number on the screen. There's absolutely no charge for our services. All right, let's get back to it. But a warning, this is not a commitment to be taken lightly. It's basically a lifetime commitment because although you can technically enroll in a Medicare supplement plan at any point during the year, you're really only guaranteed issue of a plan without any medical underwriting during the first 6 months after you enroll in Part B and turn 65. If you choose to enroll outside of that 6-month window, then in most states, you may be subject to medical underwriting, which means you could be denied or charged more based on your health. So please make sure you pick a plan with what you feel is an appropriate level of coverage for your needs. And of course, go with a carrier that has a history of lower and more stable rate increases. And this is really where a broker can help you. As I mentioned earlier, Medicare supplement plans are a financial solution, but they don't offer benefits not already covered by original Medicare. That means that prescription drugs really aren't covered. So if you are going to go with original Medicare and a Medicare supplement plan, make sure you enroll in a Part D plan as well. If you want to learn more about Part D, make sure to check out this video over here, and you can also make sure to check out our All About Medicare playlist. Of course, if you have questions, you can reach us in the comments below or at the number on the screen. We are licensed nationwide, and there's absolutely no charge for our services. And before you go, please make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date. We'll see you next time.